My name is Michelle, and I am the founder of It's Epic. I'm also a content marketing media specialist at Spotify, and this is Quarantine Chats. So I really just wanted to, get a week long together of people in their industries and like what they specialize in, and just really get really good conversations out of everyone that I really think that you guys would enjoy. So a little bit more about It's Epic. It's Epic is a creative networking platform that is aiming to connect creatives and professionals with other dope creatives and professionals. So if you're a creative, you have like your own business, you do freelancing, graphic design on the side, we want to connect you with people who are in use of your service. And on the other end, if you're a brand, if like a new entrepreneur, an artist, anything, we want to connect you with young creatives who can be of service to you. So if you guys are interested in joining the network, please follow at It's Epic Group on Instagram or go to itsepic.com to join the network. And so we can now get into it. So today's topic is the sports world without sports. It's like really crazy. I don't think anyone would have ever thought that like we would be in this time at this time, like ever, like no NBA, no NCAA, like what, like, so we have 4 really amazing panelists who work all across the sports industry. I will introduce them to you guys. So first we have Josh Dickens. Josh is a native of Tallahassee, Florida, and University Place, Washington. Josh attended the University of Central Florida, where he majored in marketing and minored in sports business management. After he graduated from UCF in the spring of 2017, he began his pursuit in his Master's of Business Administration at Seton Hall University in New Jersey. Shout out Jersey. While he took classes at night, he had the opportunity to work with local New York teams, which included the New York Jets and the New York Red Bulls, to gain vital work experience. During the summer of his MBA studies, he landed an internship with House of Highlights that played a big role in his professional career and helped him get to where he is now full-time. So when he graduated from his MBA in the spring of 2019, he was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to rejoin the House of Highlights team at Bleacher Report. Currently, he is the community development coordinator, where he's able to touch many different areas of the company, such as brand strategy, grassroots marketing, audience engagement, and use all of these efforts to grow House of Highlights into one of the biggest sports media brands in the market. So give it up for Josh virtually.
Appreciate that.
Nice. What a all the accolades.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So next we have Chloe. Chloe is a sports analyst and creator. She received her undergraduate degree in broadcast journalism from the University of Maryland and played for the women's basketball team. She received her master's in sports management at the University of Connecticut, where she also served as the player development coach for the women's basketball team. She helped build and sell the #1 platform for women's sports to Overtime, a sports network built for today's generation of athletes and fans. And now she is currently the digital content manager and talent for Overtime. Pavlech has done broadcasts for ESPN, BTN, and NBC Sports Network. Give it up for Chloe.
Everyone, thanks for coming.
Yes,
thanks for having me. So
definitely. And next we have Josh. Another Josh. We have 2 Joshes, but
The more the better.
more the better, exactly.
There you go.
So Josh has worked within the global partnerships at the NBA since November 2018. He's originally from Southern California, where he is right now. We're also jealous of the California quarantine. Josh moved to New York in 2015 after graduating from USC. He received his master's in sports management from Columbia University in 2017 and previously worked at Scout Sports and Entertainment before joining the league. So give it up for Josh.
Shout out USC.
Yes. And
Dang.
last but not least, we have Lucy. Lucy is a junior analyst with 3 seasons of experience at the National Football League. She has made an impact within the organization with multiple roles, including building the national marketing initiatives from the ground up and managing major tentpole events each year. Before diving into the world of football, she attended the University of Southern California, another USC out here, and made a name for herself in the industry by working for the Los Angeles Clippers, ESPN, and a notable sports agency. So give it up for Lucy. So as you see, we have like a whole big gang out here of like sports professionals. And here we are. We're ready to just jump right in. Like I said, use the question and answers, use the chat to really get this to be as interactive as possible. We really want this to be as beneficial as possible for you guys, not just for us. So yeah. So I guess the first question is, what are you guys missing most about sports right now?
Yeah, I could actually start off, just like almost about every other sports fan, I would say we're missing everything about sports. In a world where it has become increasingly harder to find those physical connections, I personally am missing the fact that I can't just randomly go sit next to someone at a bar and chat about the Chiefs winning this year's past Super Bowl in Miami. Or let's just say like the moment Patrick Mahomes escapes the pocket and the crowd starts buzzing as he runs towards the sideline, surveying the field, and something crazy is about to happen. When you're in sports, you're in the business of providing hope. So once sports is put to a pause, it kind of gets fans anxious as well about the state of their surroundings. Sports for fans is so unique in that it offers a sense of fun and escapism all year round, but most importantly, like I mentioned, it's the power of creating that connection. Sports has the opportunity for those that might not necessarily have anything in common regarding certain inevitable barriers, such as race or like I would say social class, and to finally be able to put sports in the picture. That's when fans really have that chance to transcend those boundaries and come together to an equal playing field to talk about their favorite teams, their favorite players, and the upcoming season. And so for the NFL, we're really excited and determined as a league to get back sports in front of everyone's screens for this upcoming season. But of course, we do have to follow the appropriate protocols as well.
Nice. Definitely.
Yeah, I would say it's just weird. Like, I can't really explain it. The one thing I do love, though, is that, I feel like we've all been able to connect because of The Last Dance. But I miss going on Twitter during playoffs. I miss all the memes. Like, I miss all of that brings us all really together. And, we all know that our life revolves around sports. But I think really, once you take away live sports, I think you truly realize how much your life really does revolve around it. Like it's a part of your day. Like it's so weird to me turning on, I don't want to say Alexa because she's gonna start talking, but like when they're going down like the NBA, when they're running down the NBA stuff, it's like no NBA update today. Like it's so weird to me, and I never imagined a world where we wouldn't have sports right now, or live sports right now, I should say.
Yes, like you said, I could never picture that this was a realistic possibility. And like for someone who grew up with all their free time, either playing or watching sports, just to be in this moment, especially now in my childhood bedroom where a lot of those memories of playing and watching the sports are taking place, to not be able to do that is tough. And like you kind of both hit on, the opportunity it presents to bring people together or divide them, whether it's, I guess, depending on the nature of the argument at the time. Whether it's Jordan versus Braun or whatever it may be. I miss that. I miss how much it inspires me unknowingly, just on a regular Tuesday after a mundane day at work, coming home and, seeing Steph go for 50 and how that gets me out of bed the next day to try to be the best I can with whatever I have on my plate. So definitely miss a lot of those aspects when it comes to watching live sports.
Yeah, I'd echo what everybody said about it. I think what's key is it's how we communicate, with this being our passion. What we love is how we talk with one another, being friends or coworkers. It's easy, small talk, the cliche at the water cooler, what happened last night at the game, or who you're following, especially during playoffs or any championship series like this past March. I mean, March wasn't the same without March Madness, to be honest. So it's just how we communicate. It changes how we communicate. We're talking about college basketball. Now we talk about, what we're watching on Netflix, where you binge watching Love is Blind, or you binge watching something else, you just discussing stuff like that instead of what happened in the game. And then how Lucy mentioned it before, like it's an escape, everything that's going on in the world. I mean, I wish we had live sports to escape from everything that's going on right now. That would be a nice escape if we had that, but obviously we have to adjust and adapt to what we're going through. But also something that stands out, it's like, for me, I can't speak for everybody, sports kind of dictates how we're progressing throughout the year. You know,
Mhm.
like at the beginning of the year, January, it's NFL playoffs. And then February is the Super Bowl. Right after the Super Bowl, you have NBA All-Star. Then after All-Star, right around the corner, there's March Madness. Then after March Madness, the NBA playoffs. And then it's summer. Then it's just baseball. Shout out to all the baseball fans. But then
It's a
right around
tough
the
window.
corner, you have football in the fall. It's all like it's like a season, like a legit season, like summer, spring, winter, fall. It's like it dictates how we're progressing throughout the year. Now we don't have that. Now the days are blending. I don't know what season we're in. It's getting confusing from time to time.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like, just like you said, like not having March Madness was probably like the start of like what is actually happening. Like, how are we gonna move forward from here? So I guess that leads me into like my next question. So with like NCAA getting canceled, what do you guys think this means for like potential draftees? Like, will they go that next year? Will they, have other opportunities like the G League or going overseas? Like, what do you think that means for both the players and for the teams who are looking at these players, anticipating them to play in March Madness?
Yeah, I could jump in there. March Madness has obviously been the platform and opportunity for a lot of guys to improve their stock going into the draft, and for a lot of these guys not to have that, and now being faced with what they still put their name in the hats for this upcoming draft. I'm sure that's tough. And simultaneously you have a great case study in LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton, who go overseas and are still projected to be lottery picks. You have the G League on the come up with some of the top prospects that both Overtime and Bleacher honestly have done a great job of making people aware of that are now finding a new path and going to prove to be case studies for this upcoming year. So I think to be a young prospect, it's really exciting just because there is a lot of different paths to now get to that ultimate goal of being a professional. But for the NCAA in particular, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I do think that there'll always be opportunity for players to want to play in March Madness because that's where you are able to improve your stock going into the draft a few months later.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off of what Josh said, I mean, I think you think about your time as a senior or whether you're one and done or plan on finishing early, and March Madness is something that you live for. And I also think depending on what type of player you are, obviously all the scouts know how good you are, but March Madness can really propel your stock depending on how you do during that time. And that's on the women's side and also the men's side, because obviously the women have already had their draft. But I think it stinks, and I really feel for the players on all levels. And I do think draft stocks, it does play a factor in it. But one thing that I like that Josh touched on that I love is seeing players take different routes, not just not trying to get into this whole college sports debate, but not just going to college, right? You're starting to see those top players go to the G League, go overseas and take risks and try to make a name for themselves and obviously make more money because that is essentially what it is about. But like I said, I really, really feel for the players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, just to pick off like what Josh and Chloe said, it definitely is frustrating for everyone because all these athletes and players have like a plan of like what they're about to do and how they can best showcase their abilities. But life happens, and who would have predicted a global pandemic that will be the thing that's stopping them from reaching their dreams or increasing their stocks, right? Like Chloe mentioned. And even though it's frustrating, it's kind of like, what now? What is the best option for me as a player, as an athlete, and how I can move forward with my career?
Yeah, I'll echo what the rest of the panelists said. My heart, really, when I think about it, goes out to the seniors that missed out on this opportunity this past year to compete in it. Because you train all season, you train, particularly your whole life, it's a dream of yours to compete in March Madness, and I was getting stripped away from you. It's a tough pill to swallow. And then, as it was mentioned before, it can really impact your draft stock. I mean, I think about look at the best player in the NBA, for instance, one of the best would be Steph. I mean, when he was just playing for Davidson, he goes into the tournament and makes noise, and now he's one of the best players in the league. So it's interesting to see how the NBA will handle the draft coming up soon, and see how that really takes a hit on these player stocks.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you guys feel about all of these new different fan engagement tactics that sports are playing, like playing all games, the esports? Like, do you really feel like these are things that are keeping, I guess, fans up to date with what's happening and still engaged into the sports world?
Yeah, I'd say it's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid to go into the archives and look back. I mean, it's always fun to look back and you remember those games that you forgot about, or get to go back and look at them, because that's really all you have when you come back. Because you want live sports, but it's not there, so you have to go back and look at games that were in the past. Something that stood out, I think, a couple months ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. NBA League Pass and NFL Pass, the online archive was free for like a month, so you can go in and watch any. Yeah, exactly. So I was like going through watching these old games that you couldn't do, or you had to pay for it in the past, but now it's access to you. So it's like a short Band-Aid that hopefully will keep the pain down, but that's only going to last for so long, because our appetite's going to only increase as time goes on, and we'll miss it more and more as the seasons as we miss out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. Like during this critical time, I do believe that the various other initiatives that the NFL has been working on is able to, really provide that sense of distraction for fans, and also keeping them engaged at the same time. So, for example, our Madden Bowl, which is very popularly recognized as our Super Bowl, basically of Madden competitive gaming, has currently been running since late April and will be accumulating this Saturday. Last year, the Madden 19 championship finale had about 97,000 viewers, which is actually breaking viewing records for the past few years. And we're really excited about this incredible margin that's going to come for this year. So we do have very high hopes that for this year's esports competition, they will definitely be closer to the spotlight. And it will definitely, like you mentioned, Josh, be like a band-aid for now, but it just also shows us how important esports and the gaming industry is, and how we can use this opportunity to provide that special highlight into that industry for now, and use that to our best advantage while we wait for sports to get back on TV.
Yeah, I think it's great, everything that has kind of come about, especially with esports and the gaming industry. But when I really think about it, especially too, I know on the women's side, they were still able to have the WNBA draft virtual, and it had the highest numbers that the draft has seen ever. So I mean, something like that's huge. One thing that is a little bit sick is more so because I think women's basketball in terms of popularity is probably at an all-time high right now compared to some of the times that it was back then. So now we get into things where you don't really get to have the WNBA season, and a lot of stuff with free agency that's been going down, and the excitement and hype around the league is tough. But I think one of the coolest things, and I think Josh, he mentioned it, is I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but I feel more like a kid than I ever have before, like right now at this time. I don't know how to explain it. But I just find myself reverting back to like old habits, which I think is really good and bad, maybe toxic at times too, but that's another story. But one thing that I love about rewatching old games is you get to relive those moments. And Josh said, we are pulling back the Band-Aid with some things, but other things, it's like, how many times do you get to rewatch that last game? Or you remember exactly where you were when you saw this team won, or when a player hit this big shot. And I do think it's really, really neat to kind of relive those experiences, because, I feel like life moves so fast, especially in the sports world. Like it's always next thing, next play, everything. And to me, it's been a time where I could really sit back and reflect on how great someone was or how great a team was, and really appreciate that greatness again.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really cool experience to kind of relive the glory days, like you guys already hit on, and to tune into those games. And we have our emails every day that tells us which games are going to be on ESPN, and a lot of them have been kind of from that 2010 era where a lot of us were kids and really into the game and didn't have anything else to do but to watch these sports. So to go back and watch those is really cool. And then, like everybody hit on, everyone's talking about kind of their different sectors of the sports world that they're in. It's cool to see the innovation that's coming from all sides, and seeing what games are being broadcasted, what esports opportunities are coming to the table. I think it was only week 1 after the NBA season where a clip went viral of these guys betting on their friends playing a 2K game. So the people really do want live sports, and I think that's becoming more apparent than ever, but it's still a great opportunity to kind of go back and relive some of the history as we hopefully get to see what the future looks like in the coming months.
Yeah, for sure. And like talking about like reliving old times, like everyone has been watching The Last Dance. Like that's been like weekly the talk on Black Twitter, every Twitter. So I guess like going into that, like we've seen like how, you know, Jordan has been during his career and like, you know, he's had like this big ego and, you know, does like, would you guys say that you need this big ego that's going to trump talent when you want to be the star? Like, do you need to have that, I guess, star quality to be that player?
Personally, I think that personality and ego does sometimes bridge the gap between talent. And we see a lot of guys that probably have a way better career, way better game or moment than anybody else but them would have ever thought they would. But they have the confidence to think that they could do that. So I think that there's always going to be those guys. I think Jordan is typically regarded as the GOAT because he had that ego and personality, but also the skill level that made him who he was. But at the same time, I think that there's different leadership ways to go about leadership that will still get you to the mountaintop. So I think now, right now, we're all really, you know, honing in on Jordan and his ways and how he kind of went about motivating his teammates, you know, the way he would talk to them in practice, whatever he may do. But at the same time, I think there's a billion other stories that could be told alongside it for a championship team or one of the greatest in our game that went about it a completely different way and still is regarded as one of the greatest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, especially for football, like it's a team sport. You know, you don't just win as one star player. Like, if you win, then the whole team wins. And without your teammates, you're nothing. So, you know, I do believe that you need to have both, you know, the personality, the talent, and also that grit to really become known as like a superstar in the industry. Because, you know, what makes you a leader is not just someone, you know, is not just who you are as an individual player, but who you are on and off the field as well. So I think this is a perfect example when we see how players are reacting to what's happening around them in their communities. Are they helping out their local community members or like the family? I think that speaks volume for who you are as a person, and you know, it sets example for people that are looking at you from a nationwide perspective, as well as your other teammates. And it's through those certain qualities that I think you'll really be able to shine above from just like how you're doing as an athlete.
Yeah, I think for me, kind of just watching Michael Jordan lately, and it just makes me think of like if your team never fought, or like if someone never got in your face or held you accountable, then you probably didn't win. Like your team wasn't good.
Yeah.
And just being around like different athletes and some of the best athletes in the world on the men's and women's side, like it does happen all the time. There are egos, and sometimes, you know, people can let it go and leave it there, and you know, they can still have great relationships, but sometimes the sacrifice is so big and so great that you know, those relationships never truly mend themselves. But I think that's the price you kind of have to pay when you want to be great and when you want to achieve success. And Lucy mentioned it, you know, every great player is a different type of leader. There may be some similar qualities and characteristics across the board, but every player leads in a different way. And I think this last episode was really great because it talked about how Scotty led versus how Michael led. But how Scotty obviously still had some faults, and the team was used to Michael. So I think the team was really still in check because of what Michael Jordan had established and the culture he had built. And they were obviously able to still retain that and follow that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Lucy said something very that stands out is that I think it also kind of depends on which sport we're talking about. I think like football, it would be hard pressed for me to imagine Tom Brady getting into somebody's face on the defensive side of the ball to try to get them to work harder for somebody because he doesn't contribute on the defensive side of the ball. But we look at Jordan and especially in the '90s Bulls is different. You know, he's contributing on both sides of the ball. And we talk about ego and personality. I mean, and then specifically Michael Jordan, he's such an anomaly, an outlier. His talent is just astronomical, one of the greatest team sport athletes of all time. So having that type of weight or responsibility might require to have that certain ego and personality to bring it out of not only his teammates but also himself, to hold himself to a higher standard and hold his teammates to a higher standard as well. And Chloe mentioned it. It's a way to drive and push his teammates to make sure that they're on that same level, because they want to be great, and they didn't get 6 championships without that type of mentality. And and again, it's been mentioned before, every leader, every player leads different ways. Because Scotty, once Jordan was gone in those 2 seasons, Scotty was different. It was more team ball. I think this episode was it showed that pretty well, how it was a different type of culture, but they were still a good team. They still made the playoffs. I think it was second round, I think it was highlighted. But yeah, so going back to the question, when it comes to the personality, when you have the level of talent that Jordan has, you can definitely get away with it for sure.
Agreed. Yeah. So I'm gonna jump to sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say I think the one thing that that you could pick from kind of his spiel that he had in episode 7 and 8 that I think could apply to all leaders is that he didn't ask his teammates to do anything that he wasn't willing to do himself. So no matter how you go about it, if that's kind of your vibe, I think you're going to be good. And I think you're going to be a good leader, because people aren't going to be responding well to that type of leadership style if you're last in suicides and yelling at people they need to be faster. So I think that was probably my favorite part of it.
That's facts for sure. I'm going to jump into a question from one of the audience. So Carl asks, how do you feel about seasons possibly having delayed start due to coronavirus, and how do you think that will affect athletes?
Nobody jumping for this one.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Deep. It is.
It's a tough one, but I mean, when I think about it, anything recently that kind of resembles it was 2011. The NFL had a lockout. I believe the NBA had a lockout similar as well.
Yep.
I can't remember how many games or what was a major takeaway, but especially to just talk about NFL, just one of my favorite sports. It takes away from training and the lead it up to the season. Every sport, you need training and preseason to lead up to the season so you can perform your best. I really think sports like the NFL and the NBA for later this year is going to take a hit in how these games are going to be played and the quality of it, because these teammates and players don't have the time in the summer or in the preseason or off season to mesh and learn the playbook and learn the offensive defensive schemes. So that's going to be tough. And looking at the MLB recently, they're projecting or proposing to do shorter season. I think like 82 games, which is actually extremely less games for the MLB. Has well over 100 games during the regular season. So it's definitely going to take a hit. It's going to be a different change for these athletes and these teams to get used to. How so? I mean, we can still enjoy it as fans, but the overall quality of play of these games, we get to see if it's still held at a high quality due to this pandemic.
Yeah, I think it's huge. And I mean, there's nothing, and anyone can say this, like, there is nothing like game shape.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no matter what you do, there is nothing that can really prepare you for it until you're actually in the game and you're playing those games repeatedly. Like, there's a reason why you see a team go from maybe here, bottom of the pack, to the top, or maybe the middle of the pack to the top. It's a progression. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we hear that time and time again with Shaq. Shaq talking about just cancel the NBA season. And I don't know how players could get themselves back to that level of training in a safe way too, just speaking frankly, and protecting them. So I think if they can push it back as much as they can, great. But I mean, canceling some seasons, I think would be the right and necessary step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just speaking on behalf of the NFL, we actually did just release our schedule for the 2020 season. And, we are trying to resume things back to normal, and we're projected to still have like a 16-game slate across the season. But we did mention that we are very willing to adjust to whatever circumstances that might hit us, given that, we are very excited to keep that same number of games, hopefully. And having to adjust rather than to eliminate any games, because that would just ultimately ruin the whole schedule, and then obviously disappointment from our fans. But who would have been able to predict such a weird time in our world right now. So just trying to be as optimistic as possible. But, who knows what's going to happen. And, we're definitely putting our safety of our employees, of our players and athletes and our staff first before everything else. But we also understand fans are very excited for things to resume back to normal on their screens and come to games.
Yeah, definitely would agree. Like, I can't even imagine like being an athlete, or even specifically like a Olympic athlete, training for 4 years and then this just gets like shot. Like, I feel like your body just has to go into some sort of shock after like training for so long and then just not going into that. So I guess like moving on to that, like the Olympics 2020 were canceled for the summer. A lot of athletes may feel like they don't want to travel, or like what if it was like your last year that you were, qualified? Like, how do you think, like, I guess, like being an athlete, like, how would you feel like going into that next year of training, or that next year of preparing, thinking that you have to go like abroad again?
Yeah, I think I was actually listening to Diana Taurasi today talking about the Olympics. And, she brought in a great perspective for her. I think she said it would be her fourth time at a chance to win a gold medal. So she was like, if altogether, even if it's canceled next year, like, she's fine. Whereas another athlete, this may be their first and only shot. So it's totally different. And even how they prepare for something like this is something that athletes train for their whole lives. And for it not to happen, it's sad. But the fact that it is postponed for now, I think it's still great. And I still think no matter what, they're gonna be just as passionate about the opportunity because they know it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I think, you could look at it two ways. Like, I get more time to be ready, or it's like, dang, I was so ready. I don't know how I can prepare for it again. But all those Olympic qualifiers, I know they're taking it in a way as like, okay, I get another chance to prepare and be better.
Yeah, I think I'm assuming that a lot of these, individuals that are qualifying for Olympics are just built in a way where they are super competitive and super motivated. And as frustrating as this kind of pause on their training and everything along those lines goes, I would assume that after kind of going through that period of being frustrated and disappointed, they're going to get right back to it when time comes. And they're not, like Chloe said, they're not going to kind of let that once in a lifetime opportunity go to waste whenever it does come to them. So I would expect them to stay ready.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, because the Olympics is every 4 years, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. My heart, I just think about those seasoned veterans that are probably on their last leg, the last chance to ever go make it the Olympics. Or like for many athletes, they only get one and done. They only get one chance to make, I think about, the main sports for US that we follow: swimming, track and field, and gymnastics. Like the prime age for gymnastics is like teenagers. Like once you become in your 20s, like you're done. You can't go anymore. So I mean, you have to strike when the iron's hot, and you only have a limited window to do it. I feel like most of the athletes would try it again the next year, but no, it really does suck about it. But I feel like there's some sports that just kind of almost a side tangent that I feel like could keep going during this. And one that stands out is like tennis. Like in tennis, you're already very distant from each other. I don't know if it's 6 feet, but you're on two, just 1v1. I mean, you could do doubles, so no doubles, but 1v1, you have a large distance against each other. I feel that could be a sport that could have continued, because I would love to see Serena on the court doing her thing. But no, it's about as Olympics as a whole. Yeah, I feel like athletes will still try to compete the following year, but it's really a tough pill to swallow for the older and seasoned vets that probably have to miss out on their last chance at gold.
That's a really good point about tennis. I didn't think about how
yeah.
So already like 6 feet apart.
It's a kind of a quiet game. The crowd, you don't really need a crowd. You don't really see the crowd, hear the crowd that much when you watch the tennis. You just hear a bunch of people grunting all the whole time. But now I feel like that's the main sport that should be on TV right now. I need to see Serena back out there right now.
Seriously.
Yeah, I also think everyone needs to remember that to be a professional athlete, you need to be competitive. And, these people are just so excited about what they've been working their whole lives for. So if, let's just say, they have the option to travel next year, or, if there are any more health concerns, it's really up to them to make the right protocols of what they think is the best decision for themselves. But as a whole, I do think, they're not medical experts. So they will be relying on everything that's happening right now and the leadership of this country to make some of the best decisions for them and to see where it goes from there.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess like going back into games and how that's going to look after coronavirus, like even if sports do open up, will fans want to attend games? Like will these leagues have fans attend games? Like what really is a sporting event without the fan? Like will it have that same energy? Like what do you guys think that whole, like, I guess, concept of playing without fans would look like?
Yeah, I actually think that, like most things that we're all going through, it's going to take some time to get used to for the players if there were no fans in the stands. But at the end of the day, these are women and men that have been playing this sport for a long time, and before thousands of fans were screaming and watching them play. And everybody's hit on, these are very competitive individuals. So I think, as as weird as it will be walking into an arena with no fans and all that good stuff, once you get on the floor and it's your five versus their five, the competitiveness takes over. And I think honestly it could result in some of the best basketball we've seen, once these guys get their legs under them and stuff, just because it's just me versus you at that period. And a lot of them have also kind of rediscovered the love for the game when it was taken away from them during this time period. So all that put together, I'm honestly would be excited if we do end up having to go around with no fans to see what that basketball looks like.
Yeah, retweet to everything Josh just said. I feel like we're probably going to see the level of competitiveness just shoot up. I think across all of sports, not just basketball or anything like that. Just because it's like when something is taken away from you, like I think it really starts to hit home. It's like, okay, I don't know, this could be my last game or this could be my last season, whatever else. And I think, especially with The Last Dance, I think that's just bringing out everyone's competitive nature and their appreciation for the game. Now, the quality of play for a while may be a little sus, but as far as the competitiveness goes, I think it's going to be amazing.
Could really get into it.
I think from a fan's perspective, it depends on the sport as well. Kind of mentioning like with tennis, or like I know there's going to be a big golf tournament, kind of charity golf coming up soon this summer between Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods, and they're playing a golf tournament with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Golf is already like a kind of a quiet sport. Fans they add to it, but not as much as like basketball or football. So it really depends on how on the sport we're talking about. Like basketball, I mean, there's a real thing of home court advantage. They can really affect a player when they're at the free throw line. And same thing with football with that home field advantage. So it's like we said, our panelists already mentioned it. It's going to just depends on the sport, and the world just have to adjust, because once they're in, they'll be fine. They'll adapt to it.
Yeah, it's just crazy for me to think like, can I imagine two teams playing on an empty football field that is meant to hold thousands of fans, and still expect that same kind of energy? I think as an athlete, like, of course that competitive nature in you will definitely come out once you are on the field, but there's a reason why teams tend to do a lot better when they are in their home field or in the home court, whatever it is, right? Because they know that they have those fans backing them up, and that they feel right at home. So when you do strip that interactive piece of fans in their home court or in their home field, players tend to also be affected. And we will just have to see how that would play out. But for now, I'm just like, I just can't even imagine an empty stadium, which I hope sports do come back on soon, and so that fans will have that same opportunity to be a part of that experience.
Well, I don't know if this gets too personal, but how is this affecting like your day to day at work?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
No, I can chime in. So in the partnerships world, I work in the partnership management kind of subgroup within global partnerships in particular. So, we're the face of the NBA for all our respective partners. And, they have their questions, like the rest of the world, since it's asking around the pandemic and want to know how things are moving forward. So a lot of that nowadays is definitely communicating with them, any updates, working through different scenarios might present themselves in the future, and kind of just managing expectations accordingly, especially when there's always going to be a lot of chatter and a lot of rumors going around the sport. So that's kind of how it's affected mine.
Yeah, in my world of internal communications, I am in charge of managing a lot of the employee activations and engagement internally for all the employees at the NFL. So even right now, ever since this whole pandemic started, there has definitely been a shift of like what we're doing as a business that we're all doing for the first time ever in the history of the league. So it's a lot about being creative and just being able to handle all that work of that's coming at you, and just having to find those loopholes and figure out what we can do to continue engaging everybody as an employee and as well as a fan too, and being optimistic about how we can continue connecting fans with the game.
Yeah, I feel like everyone else, House Highlights been affected as well. I mean, we're a sport media brand, so we kind of report in and reflect what's going on in these two separate leagues and leagues all over. But something I guess we're lucky enough to kind of adapt to is that we're the intersection between sports and youth culture. So yes, we're lacking on those highlights that we feed off of from the NBA and other leagues, but now we get to shift our focus from the stars on the court to the stars at home, which is our fans and our audience. Something that was kind of cool that we put on with House of Highlights was the in-house challenge. So we kind of challenge everybody to do their own kind of like 3-point contest or different tricks and sports skills in their house and adapt it and could be shared on House Highlights page. So we're just finding ways to interact with our audience a little bit more creative and innovative to broadcast them as they're the star athletes, as they're the focus right now. And since we're all home, to stay in it and stay safe. But thinking back this past March, we definitely have a long relationship with March Madness, college basketball. So not having that was a huge hit. And then a lot of people still come to House Highlights for the NBA. But now we're shifting focus and adapting. As long as these months go on, we're continuing to do that.
Yeah, and I know Josh agrees with me, but views and clicks are up higher than they've ever been. So that's actually really great, and engagement.
Yeah.
But I'll speak on me personally for work. I don't know. For me, I've struggled a little bit just with I always like work a ton, but kind of like really separating when it's time to really be home since we're working at home. Mm-hmm. Like for me, like my phone, I'm still checking my emails at like 2 a.m. Why am I doing that? And we were always hitting each other at, late hours and different things like that. But I feel like now it's just at an all-time high, and it's been all the Zooms, as much as I love to see all my people in here at overtime. Sometimes it's good just to take a break. Cause like my friends and my family, they want to talk during the week, and I'll be like, honestly, I've had all these different calls and videos and things like that. I'm good on talking for right now. So I think for me, it's kind of learning that that separation. And I think we're all trying to figure it out, this working from home. I don't think anyone has ever worked from home this long. If you have, shout out to you. But me personally, I've never experienced it. Like, this is my first time working from home. So really just trying to figure that out.
So I guess what have you guys been doing in your spare time? Like, have you guys doing like TikToks? Like, is Netflix your thing? Like, what is like really getting you guys cooking? Like, I know I've been cooking a ton, so.
Apparently I need to throw Chloe the TikTok follow. That's what I'm learning from the chat.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing in chat. Like, we might have to get a Savage challenge, a Renegade, something out here.
I just want to put it out there. I feel like, not that it's TikTok is becoming cool, but it's becoming more accepted in the culture. Before, my friends would like drag me, like, why are you on TikTok and all this? And I'm like, I'm telling y'all, like, once you get on it, like it's addicting in a way that I can't really explain. So I've been doing that. And like you said, Michelle, I've been cooking. Before I could not cook anything, and now y'all, I'm about to be a wife. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm coming out better.
I hear you.
Yeah, speaking of TikTok, did y'all catch the commish dancing on TikTok for during draft?
Oh,
he did the sissy slide.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, the
funny.
Sissy side. Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
was hilarious. But yeah, I thought that was such a fun, little thing that he did just to lift the spirits of everyone, and really open up that opportunity for a new piece of social media to come into a world like TikTok, even though, obviously it's been relevant, but now it's like, wow, even the commish is doing something on TikTok with an athlete. And I just found that like such a cool opportunity during this time, especially. We don't always have to look at this time as something that's being put to a pause, but, being able to um, uplift other opportunities that are trying to get up in this world. So like Twitch as well, I think that's another very popular platform that is making its way into the industry.
Yeah, Lucy, if I had a basement like Roger Goodell, I'd be dancing and posting videos on TikTok too. I mean, that man was posted up comfortable, during the draft. All 3 days he was chilling. So I'm not surprised. But no, Chloe, I'm like you. I'm starting to cook a little bit more. You ask my family or friends, I'm like the worst chef, but I got on this Hello Fresh. I'll be a brand ambassador for Hello Fresh. If y'all not on Hello Fresh, get Hello Fresh. They'll send you some meals to your crib, so I don't have to go to the grocery store as often. It's some easy, simple 30-40 minute. I'm on intermediate, I'm kind of remedial right now, but give me a couple more months, I'm gonna be Chef Homeboy RD out here. I'll be straight.
We'd love to see it.
This would have been a great window to become a better chef, but that was half the reason I came home, because I knew I couldn't feed myself 3 days a week, 3 times a day. So my mom's still hooking it up, so I can't complain.
Honestly, like, shout outs to moms, because I don't know how they made like 3 meals a day, worked, came home. Like, I'm just like, how do I even fit this into my meetings? It's a lot, but
Yeah.
we're all adjusting to everything. But yeah, so I guess, how would you say you guys got into like the love of sports? Like, what was that, like, I don't know, one key moment, that one game, that one family member, like, that really got you to be like, yo, I'm gonna be an athlete, or I'm gonna work in sports? Like, that's what it is.
For me, I have a pretty good history of like where my background came from. So in high school, I went to Brooklyn Technical High School, and I played varsity basketball for 4 years. And for me, entering into college, I always thought that was fun, but I never never thought of it as an opportunity. But when it was about time for me to decide like my major, I really looked back at all that I have experienced throughout my life and what I really enjoy doing. So ultimately, it did come back to sports. And from there, at USC, I was thinking, how the heck do I get involved with, in the business side of sports as opposed to being an athlete? And what I did was I joined an organization at USC that was focused primarily around sports business, and they provided a lot of networking opportunities. So in this Facebook group chat, they basically kept everyone updated about what they're doing, any network and contacts that they have, they would post in this group. So one day I just went on that group and I started cold emailing everyone, all the contacts that were in that group. It was called the USC Sports Business Association group. And finally one contact actually reached back out to me, and that was actually Robert Pelinka, who is crazy. He's currently the GM of the Lakers, and I was like, I did not expect that to happen at all. Out of all the people that responded back to me, he got back to me, and it really is just that one opportunity that you need to really make a domino effect and provide you that chance to show everyone that you can and belong into this industry that you're working so hard in. So for me, even though no one really likes cold emailing, like, of course no one wants to do that, but sometimes when you do start at the bottom, you have to show people that are already successful in the industry that you are willing to do whatever it takes, even if it's something as simple as cold emailing.
You just gotta shoot your shot sometimes, literally.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can't recall when beginning the inception of my love for sports. I guess you have to go back into the hard streets and the basketball courts of W.T. Moore Elementary School back in Tallahassee. But I just remember, I mean, shout out to Lucy, everybody talk about USC. Like, I remember praying that I would, in the future, I asked God, make me to be the next Reggie Bush. And I realized, like, that didn't happen quick when I started playing football in middle school. So kind of like Lucy, I started getting more into the interest side of the business side and how teams, how leagues operate, you know. So that was really the spark to it. And then with the undergrad at UCF, similar kind of Lucy as well, started our sports business management program and our sports business club, build up those networks and those opportunities, and continued that with the MBA. When I pursued my MBA, it landed me here I am now with House of Highlights. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah, I feel like anybody who works in sports has a long story that they could tell of all the doors that have been closed and shut in their face. But like kind of everybody's mentioned, it really takes one yes. And beyond that, I think you hear time and time again how small the industry is, but it really is super small. So I feel like once you get in the door, you have to keep the pedal to the metal and continue to make sure you're doing good work, make sure you're repping people the right way, to be honest, because, you know, it could be a person of power down the road that didn't like that you didn't shake their hand when you walked into a door, or when you met them in 2012. That's the reason that you're not getting this position now. So I think it's important to stay on your P's and Q's. But for me, I always had a love for sports in general. It's huge in my family. And I just, as I was going through school, I was just trying to figure out a way in which to stay close to it as best I could. Kind of as everybody alluded to, you start realizing quickly that maybe this professional path isn't meant for you, especially once I never hit that growth spurt the doctor promised me. And that's so coming out of college, I had done journalism actually at USC, and I knew I wanted to kind of get that sports management stamp. So that's why I ended up moving to New York and doing the program at Columbia. I interned at MSG during that time in the partnerships group, which was I learned a lot there, and at the same time I was taking a partnerships class in my grad program. And the ultimate goal for me was definitely the MBA. So started making some contacts there, and after many no's, was able to get in there. So I would just encourage anybody who's watching it to keep going, and you really never know when the opportunity is going to come. To be honest, for me, with the person who plugged me at the MBA, there was a networking event on like a random Tuesday. I was tired. I didn't want to go, but I had told myself, you know, I want to make sure I'm going to any events, any opportunities like this that come available. And ended up going to being put into like a subgroup of like 6 different people. One of the women worked at HR in the MBA, who unknowing, I didn't know at the time. And we kind of hit it off. And she asked me if I was interested in a job there before I could even bring it up. So all that to say, you just never know when the opportunity is going to come.
Yeah, and just to echo, it's like definitely such a small world. Me and Josh, we didn't even know each other at USC. And to be honest, we only knew of each other once we got into the sports world. So definitely, you know, if I were to say, like, give one piece of advice for people that are watching is like, yes, like you will probably interact with some of the same people that you meet, you know, maybe 5 seconds in a networking session, or, you know, 5 seconds in this other event that you go to. So it's just crazy how everything comes full circle, and you'll just never know.
Yeah, that's the best feature on Instagram. When you follow someone, you see the mutuals, just like, oh, you know, such and such, oh, you know, such and such. Like, you know, I did my little creep of you guys beforehand. I was like, oh, see, like we already know the same people. So that's how it goes.
Josh, when did you intern at MSG? I interned there too.
I guess that was 2015. Yeah.
Summer 2015?
Fall 2015 and spring.
Okay,
2015.
I interned there summer 2015. Wow, small world.
Yes.
So I guess I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. Like, I know it's getting late, but my last question for you guys would be, what would you say for people who are looking to get into the sports world? Like, what tips would you have for them who are maybe like trying to get in, like mentorship or anything?
Yeah, okay. LinkedIn, I feel like young people sleep on LinkedIn so much. And when I was trying to get a job, I'm not kidding you, I probably sent like 1,000 messages. And I met up with so many people where I learned that, you know, there's plenty of people that are willing to give you advice, just reach out. But what you also have to do is be specific and find someone who can give you a job. It's great to connect and talk to a bunch of people, but what's really important is connecting with someone who can help you get a job or give you a job. And I think that's the biggest advice I can give, and finding a mentor and just being very clear in saying what you want. Don't beat around the bush. Because a lot of people, when they talk to you, you know, they don't have a lot of time, right? You have maybe like 5 seconds or less to make an impression, and then to figure out what it is that you want. And then once you do talk to those people, check back in, follow up. It's just like the little things, because you never know when you're going to need something again. It's important to be authentic.
Chloe, I also never heard your story about how you got into sports.
Oh yeah, you tried to sleep on that. You gotta go back.
It's long. We might be going for days, but I've loved basketball. I think every kid has felt that moment in sports where you just really fall in love with the game. And my biggest story is, you know, when the game stops, it's like, damn, like, what am I supposed to do now? I'm just supposed to forget about the one thing that I've loved most in this world, and I'm just supposed to move on with my life and be a regular person, whether that's in high school or college or pros. So with that being said, find what you love to do that brings out that inner kid and brings that love, you know, because I think the one thing I never want to do, even though I want to be successful, I never want to be unhappy in my job, because our job consumes so much of our lives. So when you hate your job, it just takes up so much energy and so much of your life. And, you know, even with this pandemic, we only have one life to live. So I want to be happy.
Yeah, for me, I think one really important advice, if people are interested in hearing about it, is like perseverance. Like, honestly, there have been so many no's that have come across my way when I am reaching out to people, trying to find that next job opportunity. But I think we touched upon it before. It really just takes that one yes for you to be plugged in, or for you to get that shot that you so desperately want and have that as your career for the next X amount of years, right? So no matter how hard it is, you know, it is a competitive industry. Everyone wants to, like, I wouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people definitely want to be in sports, and you just have to, you know, prove your worth. And a lot of the time that is through perseverance. So, you know, just keep on knocking. And if one door closes, another door is going to definitely open for you.
Yeah, and I would echo a lot of what Chloe said. We're on the same level. Like LinkedIn, I don't know where I'd be without LinkedIn. You had to run the LinkedIn hustle, like especially while I was in school, messaging people, trying to find individuals that work for a company or a brand that I wanted to work in, and sending out invites. And when you send an invite, send a message, send a custom message, ask about them and their position. You do that for 100 people, 10 people are going to respond, if that, not even, probably less. But like we said, all you need is one and one opportunity. And LinkedIn is such a vital tool to the point that I don't know how people got jobs and make it in any industry, big industry besides it. And LinkedIn got me I landed my House of Highlights internship because of LinkedIn, which eventually led to my full-time job. But then it also kind of depends on if you're a student still in school or you're post-grad as well. Because if you're a student, I would say volunteer and get as much internships and networks, internships and volunteering opportunities with any team, club, organization, brand you can, because there's no job that's too little, too less for you to work in. I mean, from collegiate, pro to even semi-pro. I remember working for a semi-pro baseball team when I was back at UCF and in Florida. And then if you're already a professional trying to change, you know, a certain industry you're in, I would say to rely on your network. Try to find someone who's in the industry, in this space, in a company that you have interest in, and you can look up to and connect with. I think looking through the comments, mentorships. Shoot, I'm still looking for a mentor. I mean, that's key. If you can find a mentor, I think you can go far, and like that can definitely help for you in the sports industry or any industry at all, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And to echo the point on LinkedIn, I think that is the place to go when you're looking for opportunity. But I would also just reiterate to be prepared when you do get that yes and someone's willing to connect with you and hop on a phone call with you or meet up with you for coffee. You just need to be prepared with questions, with what you're bringing to the table, with what you're looking to achieve. People are very busy, especially if we're talking about New York City. I'm far from the president, and I know that there's not enough hours in the day. So when someone does take some time out of their day to sit down with you, I just think it's really important to know what you're looking to accomplish and also to say thank you on the back end. I think it's just as important to say thank you on the back end, whether it's a written note. Anytime I did an interview, I would send a written note to the people I interview with, to the office. Who knows if it made it to them or not? But I think it's the thought that counts. And if it does make it to them, I think it shows kind of you're willing to go that extra mile. So I think if you do all those things, what we do is not rocket science. We're not looking for you to be this familiar with this complicated software or whatever, but if you have the people skills, you can hold a conversation, you seem prepared and organized, I think you can go a long way in the world of sports.
Well, with that being said, I believe that we can all look to connect with each other on LinkedIn. Don't like they said, just reach out, make a formal note, make that genuine connection. Don't just, keep asking for a job, like really show people like what you can provide for them rather than asking like what opportunity you have for me. Like I'm looking to get into sports, X, Y, and Z. We know right now, like the job market may be hard. It might be, difficult to find that one job that like you're looking for, but build these genuine relationships, connect with people, ask questions, set up 15 minutes to, find out what people do and see if that's like, something that you're interested in doing as well. So definitely, this is like a space for all of us to network. So if you want, drop your LinkedIn's, so we can all stay connected. And thank you so much to my amazing panelists. You guys literally are rock stars. Like y'all really killed it. This panel would not be anything without you guys. So thank you so much. I wish we had more time. I don't, it's really getting late, so I don't want to hold you guys. But just stay connected. I have 2 more amazing chats later on this week. Tomorrow on branding, Thursday on music. So if you guys are free, stay tuned for those. Any last thoughts that you guys want to share? Any last final words before we go?
No, I would just say thank you, Michelle. This is awesome. Great platform, great opportunity to talk to people within the industry. And I mean, no matter what point you get to, you're always looking to connect with more folks. So especially cool ones like we have on this panel. So thank you for bringing us all together. This is great.
Yeah, seriously. Well, besides like Josh and Lucy, did you guys know each other?
No.
I've heard. I mean, through Ari, I've heard of Overtime Chloe. Chloe has a very, very good reputation on social. Obviously, with the enemy in Overtime, but respect the hustle, respect the game for
Shout
sure.
out
Chloe.
Overtime. I was like, okay, bet. So we're good.
Yeah. Shout out to Chloe though. Shout out to Chloe. Didn't know her, but we know.
No, I think.
Well, I look forward to connecting with Josh and Chloe on LinkedIn. So this is how it all happens, right? It's when you volunteer some of your time to really get to know each other in the industry and expand your network. And especially when you're young, I don't know how old everyone is, but it's really important to build that network when you're still starting out in the industry. So I'm very receptive on LinkedIn. So if there is anyone that wants to talk to me, I will definitely try to make time for them as well.
Definitely.
Sure.
Michelle, thanks for having me. And that's, like everyone said, super blessed and honored for the opportunity. So thank you.
Exactly. Like
agree. Yep, echo it, Michelle. This is the second time for me doing something like this. I really appreciate you. And I see people are dropping their LinkedIn's in the chat. Is this saved, Michelle? Is there a way we can
so
we can get this afterwards?
I could send you guys the chat. I don't know how I can send it to guests, so I'll keep it on for a couple seconds if like you guys in the audience want to hold people's LinkedIn's real quick. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Like that's the whole point. I really want us young people to stay connected and like because we are the future. We will be those executives in a couple of years. So why not know people all at our same level? So thank you.
So appreciate
Thank
it
you so much, Michelle.
See you guys.
so much.
See you guys.